Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Ox Talks. It is July 29th, 2024. It's Monday. Hope you guys are having a great start to your work week. I am still in Rome, Italy. Been here for a couple of days. I will be here for one more day tomorrow and then flying back to the United States on Wednesday. I will say this from between the three cities we visited here in Italy. Um, I will say that Rome has been, for me, a phenomenal place to see. If you guys have not been to Italy, we were in Florence, we were in Venice for 6 nights, enjoyed both those cities as well. But I will say, in terms of the history, in terms of the structures, the ruins, the avant garde nature of the city here, this is, from my perspective, the place that you would want to spend some time. There's a lot to see, but the city's vibrant in a certain way that the other two, I would say, were not. In terms of, you get a lot of people here, obviously. So if you're looking for something that's more relaxing and you don't want to be around crowds, certainly at some of the historic sites that we have seen, the Coliseum today, the Pantheon, some of the churches, you're going to get people. It's just the way it is, especially during summer when school's out, families are on vacation. But even aside from that, it is a tremendous place to visit. So I would highly recommend it. Now, the food, I enjoyed the food for myself much more in Florence. I'm a red meat guy, so I enjoyed the Florentine steaks they served in Florence, the pasta. The pizza is not really what you think it is, even here, compared to coming from the United States and certain states there. It's different. So I'm not recommending it necessarily from my perspective for the culinary experience, but certainly from the history. So tomorrow we're going to do a tour of the Vatican. Looking forward to that, and then flying back on Wednesday. Several things I want to share with you. And by the way, I'm recording this video from our room here in Rome. Very cool spot we have here. You can see how rustic it is. The walls are literally solid. They're solid cement. You can see how they're kind of have a rough look to them. You can see the kind of the shutters behind me and the window coverings. This is what you see here. You have older structures, older buildings, but that's part of the charm, right? So if you guys have a chance to visit Rome, I highly suggest it. A couple of stories I want to share with you today that I think are very, very important on the economic front. Okay, I know the last couple of weeks I've been out of the loop, but I am following this stuff. I've been less than, let's say, consistent with reporting in to you guys. But today, a couple of big stories that I saw that I want to share with you. First one is from CNBC this morning. I have my laptop right in front of me, literally on my lap, pun intended, where I'm going to be looking down at the screen and reading some of this to you. This is out of CNBC today. McDonald's on Monday reported, because again, this is a bellwether. We talk about Home Depot, we talk about Walmart in terms of bellwether for consumers and the health of the average man and woman on the street. Well, look at McDonald's is one of them. I just saw an article a few days ago that McDonald's was extending their meal deal because they were trying to generate more business to their locations. McDonald's is always a place you could go and get, feed the family. And obviously, I understand they've been raising their prices. We have in California this whole minimum wage debacle, which is a joke. But aside from that, now we're talking about McDonald's as a corporation. McDonald's on Monday reported quarterly earnings and revenue that missed analysts' expectations as same-store sales declined across every division. Industry traffic has declined in major markets like the US, Australia, Canada, and Germany. In several markets, we also continue to be negatively impacted by the war in the Middle East. That's according to McDonald's CEO Chris Kempczynski. We talked about that on the earnings call today. It says these external pressures certainly weighed on our performance for the quarter, with declines in comparable sales globally and across each of our segments, but there were also factors within our control that contributed to our underperformance, most notably our value execution, the CEO says. Says company executive acknowledged that diners considered their prices too high and said they are taking a forensic approach to evaluating value offerings and working with franchisees to make the necessary adjustments. What that means in layperson speak is they're going to have to start adjusting their menu prices so people start being able to afford the items on their fast food menus and start repatriating, if you will, these restaurants, or these fast food locations. Here's what the company reported compared with what Wall Street was expecting based on a survey of analysts by LSEG. Earnings per share, $2.97 adjusted versus $3.07 expected. Revenue was $6.49 billion versus $6.61 billion expected. Those are substantial misses, both on EPS and revenue. The fast food giant reported second quarter net income of $2.02 billion or $2.80 per share, down from $2.31 billion or $3.15 per share a year earlier. All right, so things are on a downward trajectory for McDonald's. Excluding charges related to the future sale of its South Korean business, other items, McDonald's earned $2.97 a share. In quarterly revenue of $6.49 billion was about flat compared with the year ago period. Listen to this. McDonald's same-store sales shrank 1%, missing the street estimates for growth of 0.4%. This is the first time company-wide same-store sales for McDonald's have fallen since the fourth quarter of 2020. And what was going on in the fourth quarter of 2020? Everything was shut down. The lockdown was in full force and effect. The scandemic was being rolled out. So we have to go back now to the fourth quarter of 2020, almost 4 years ago, to see when same-store sales had fallen at such a great percentage. In the U.S., McDonald's same-store sales decreased 0.7% for the quarter. A year ago, the chain reported U.S. Same-store sales growth of 10.3%. All right, so that is a tremendous shift what we're seeing with McDonald's. At the end of the day, it says we expect consumers will continue to feel the pinch of the economy and a higher cost of living for at least the next several quarters in this very competitive landscape, McDonald's U.S. President Joe Erlinger has said. So they're blaming it now on competition. And what is that? Burger King? Is that Carl's Jr.? Is that Taco Bell, Del Taco? What is it? McDonald's is trying to lure, it says, in diners outside of the U.S. as well. Its international operated markets division, which includes large segments like France and Germany, saw its same-store sales, slide 1.1% in the quarter. So look, guys, we have McDonald's can't even hit their earnings target. What does that mean? That means that consumers are broke. They're tapped out. They can't even afford to go and get a Big Mac. Even outside California, where you're not, having to pay the priced in minimum wage BS guidelines, right? We're talking about across the United States and across the world. So let that be let's say just tuck that away. McDonald's, right, is from my perspective, another bellwether. So let's, again, we know where all this is heading. We know what everybody's going through every day just to put food on the table, to buy groceries, to pay all their insurance costs that are obviously skyrocketing, medical costs, home insurance, auto insurance, all those things. Not to get repetitive, we talk about it all the time on this channel, and you guys know what's going on. But I want you to be aware of the McDonald's situation. Next story I want to share with you is dealing with the banks. And this is, from my perspective, another major, major red flag. And this is out of the Daily Hodl. And it is, I tell you, it's incredible in terms of what the banks now are having to do. And what the title of the article is: JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo quietly brace for customers' financial fallout amid increasing economic uncertainty. Let me share the article with you. JP Morgan Chase, B of A, and Wells Fargo are boosting their financial defenses, preparing for customers to increasingly lose the ability to pay their bills. So they're planning for defaults across the board. In their new Q2 2024 reports, the banks say they're significantly increasing the amount of capital they're holding to cover potential losses from the credit card and loan insolvencies, collectively setting aside billions of dollars in emergency provisions. And what that means is they understand that people have been running up their credit cards, not only buying stuff they can't afford and shouldn't be buying, but and are abusing their credit limits and their credit lines, but also using their credit cards to buy everyday necessities that these banks understand that the consumers are not going to be able to repay. Okay, and they're going to default on the credit cards, and these banks are setting aside substantial amounts of money to cover these write-offs, write-downs, charge-offs, and losses. JP Morgan is leading the way, increasing its provisions from $1.88 billion in the first quarter of this year to $3.05 billion. That's a $1.17 billion jump. That is substantial. Bank of America has set aside $1.5 billion, up from $1.3 billion in the previous quarter, and Wells Fargo set aside $1.24 billion, up from $938 million in the previous quarter. The increasing balances, it says, show banks are anticipating increasing economic risk in the months ahead as commercial real estate flounders and as consumers pile up a whopping $1.02 trillion in credit card balances, according to TransUnion. Delinquency rates across various types of debt are already, it says, on the rise. And the New York Federal Reserve says U.S. total household debt hit $17.69 trillion in the first quarter of this year, an increase of $184 billion from the previous quarter. The number includes mortgage balances, which rose by $190 billion to $12.44 trillion, and auto loans, which increased by $9 billion to $1.62 trillion. So that's what's going on with the banks. They are setting aside massive cash reserves to be able to absorb, all right, and process all of the anticipated or expected defaults. I mean, we're talking about something that hasn't happened yet. They're planning for it. That should be a wake-up call to everybody as to where this economy is. No matter what the mainstream media is telling you, that everything is great, go out and buy a house, finance a car, don't worry about it. Everything will be fine. The Fed will be cutting rates soon. And, we have unicorns and rainbows. That is simply not the case. McDonald's is missing earnings. Nobody can afford a Big Mac meal anymore. The banks are setting aside major cash amounts to cover anticipated defaults. So those are the two articles I want to share with you today that I thought were, let's say, of value, hopefully, to all of you. Probably not surprising, right? And let me share just briefly the third segment of the show today. I don't want to go too long. I went to the Coliseum today here in Rome, and we had a tour, and the tour guy was phenomenal, very knowledgeable. I was explaining some of the history of the Coliseum and how they, if you look back at history, and we all heard the term bread and circuses. If you look back at history, this is where it originated, in Rome. It was the bread and circus, and it tied directly, in large part, to the Coliseum. And what they did is this tour guide was explaining today that they had between 200 and 400,000 people a day that would go into the Coliseum to be there all day. They started in the morning and they went to the evening with various segments throughout the day of different things they did to entertain the masses. And of course, they had a high society. They had everybody in middle class. They had, women, men, women. They had the slaves, and that they were, of course, called the slaves at that point in time. So they had everybody across all strata of society that were coming to this arena to watch these quote unquote sporting events. Okay. And they provided free food. They gave them drinks. They held lotteries throughout the day where they would throw things out into the crowd. You've all seen that all the time at these NBA games and everything, where they're throwing towels out and things to keep everybody pumped up. So it was obviously a distraction. It didn't cost anything for these people to go into the Coliseum to watch this stuff. So here's what I thought was interesting is how they broke the day down in terms of the festivities, if you will. So the first part of the day, the shows at the Coliseum would be they would bring in animals from across the world: lions, tigers, elephants, wolves, and they would basically in the arena they would kill these animals. They would fight with these animals and they would kill them. They would slaughter them. And then after the show was done, they would move these animals out, of course, dead animals, and then they would slaughter the animals for the meat. And as people left the arena, people could take they could take this animal meat home with them. Okay. So that was the first segment of the day. The second segment of the day at the shows at the Coliseum was where they brought in the people that had been convicted of crimes. And what they did was they performed live executions at the Coliseum. And the executions would be done either by they would kill these people with the sword, or they would burn them alive, or they would basically let the animals eat them alive. The wild animals, the lions, the tigers. So those are the three ways that let's say the convicted were put on for public display, for public execution. According to what this tour guide said, these are people that have already been sentenced to die for their crimes, okay? And they encouraged all people of the society to watch this, including the children, because they believed that it was a deterrent. If you saw people eaten alive, sliced up or burned, that obviously, you would think maybe twice about committing a crime at that time period here in Rome. And then the last segment of the day was the gladiator fights, where they would have the gladiators come out and the gladiators would then battle one another. Interestingly enough, I don't know if you've seen the movie, the Gladiator movie, but I didn't understand that. I guess I assumed wrongly that all the gladiator fights resulted in a death. That was not always the case, according to what I heard today. Only about 1 in 6 or 1 in 6 to 1 in 8 of the gladiator fights resulted in an actual gladiator dying or being killed. Some of the gladiator fights were actually staged, all right? And there was like a referee in the arena, and kind of like boxing, where they would split them apart, then they would have them re-engage each other. I thought that was very interesting, and what it made me think of kind of obviously was boxing, and also the wrestling mania stuff. Maybe not as much UFC. But look, we go back to, so anyway, very brutal time period, obviously. But we go back to entertaining people. As I was walking around, thinking to myself, NFL, thinking to myself, Major League Baseball, I'm thinking to myself, NBA, National Basketball Association, I'm thinking to myself, Wrestling Federation, National Hockey League. All these professional sports that we have in the United States, obviously, that keep people, entertained and distracted, right, from what is going on. So I researched that earlier. Bread and Circuses, look it up. It was a great way. They had 200 to 400,000 citizens from Rome per day that would go to the Coliseum to view this horrible stuff that was going on. The gladiators were sometimes criminals that had been sentenced that were out there, but they were also a segment of those guys that were retired soldiers that wanted to do it for the money. And so I just thought it was very, very interesting. I wanted to share that with you, but it just brought me back to the distractions that we're all encountering right now in the United States of America. Don't look here, look over here. Go ahead and tune into that sporting event. How many people, and again, I'm not knocking anybody who's an NFL fan or NBA fan or NHL fan or Major League Baseball fan or fan of wrestling, whatever it is. And I don't necessarily mean UFC. That's a different situation. But but in terms of this spectator sport mania we have in the United States, again, not knocking any of it. I've gone through my periods of time with the sporting teams I've followed religiously, so to speak. And in many years ago, kind of stepped away from that because I realized that when these teams would lose, it would affect my mood, and I just thought, what am I doing? These guys are going home to their $50 million mansions. They probably don't care as much that they lost the game that day as I cared. So obviously, a little bit of a digression there, but I thought that was an important takeaway I want to share with you here in Rome, just about 10 minutes away from the Coliseum where this stuff thousands of years ago was actually taking place. So amazing history, something that I thought was, again, for me personally, I enjoyed hearing about that and want to share it. Going along today, because I've been remiss in doing daily uploads and probably will not get anything done tomorrow. And then we fly home Wednesday, back in the office. I had said Friday I might get back over to the office Thursday afternoon and report in. I'm trying to upload some 1 minute shorts, little videos for you guys, video clips and some photos, so you can get a feel for some of the detail and some of what I'm experiencing here throughout this trip in Italy. So I hope that it is meaningful to you. I'm making all that stuff obviously available and is viewable by kids. I think it's important to see some of that stuff, right? So I'll leave it there today. We've been walking massive amounts. The tour today at the Coliseum was almost 3 hours. It's 100 degrees here. Humidity is relatively high compared to West Coast United States. So it is taxing. So we did 3 hours of that today. We're going to have dinner tonight. Tomorrow's a tour of the Vatican. I will give you my thoughts there, share some uploads if I can take photos and video in there. I'm not sure if I can. Security is very, very strict there, as you can imagine. Hope you guys are having a great start to your week. So probably will be uploaded a little earlier in the day, your time in the United States, because it gets too late here. Too late for me to upload it at 1 in the morning or something, where it's midday there, U.S. time. So looking forward to getting back into my routine. It's been wonderful family time and a great experience. Life-changing stuff. I think we all need to have some balance and take that time. But the steps have been kind of taking the place a lot from my workouts. I talk about all this time on this channel. You just need to do something, right? Get some movement in, get those steps in, watch the diet. Obviously there's more pasta and more carb central stuff in some of these areas, some of these cities. But again, it's all about balance, right? You can do that, enjoy stuff, enjoy local culture and local fare and food wherever you're at, but then just get back to the routine. Okay, I know there's a lot of struggles happening here. That's why I wanted to share the McDonald's story with you and the bank story. Leave your comments below if you guys, what you're seeing in your areas, what's going on, and let's just again keep putting one foot in front of the other. Everyone keep doing the best they can. I think things are going to keep sliding and keep getting worse before they get better. Appreciate all of you. The shadow banning continues on the loss of subscribers from the channel. Can't let that bother me on a day-to-day basis. It is what it is. Let's keep building the community and do what we can. I appreciate you guys subscribing. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. Hit that thumbs up button for me. Leave some comments and hit the bell notification as well. Went a little long today. Hope you enjoyed the content. Reporting here from Rome, Italy. Talk to y'all soon. Bye.